To effectively condition the core, we must first learn how to engage the core muscles. The objective of this initial phase is to isolate and activate the core musculature. To do this, we're going to start with an exercise in a lying position. And Lori will help demonstrate the exercise with me. You notice she's lying flat on her back with her knees bent, feet flat on the floor, and her heels are about 12 to 18 inches away from her hips. Her arms are relaxed at her sides, and by all means, feel free to use a pillow, a rolled up yoga mat, or a foam pad to support your head. The first part of this exercise I'm going to call the squeeze. What I have Lori do is simply squeeze her pelvic muscles, much the same way you would squeeze the muscles if you were resisting the urge to urinate. You can assist yourself in this contraction by placing a pillow or a foam pad between your thighs and squeezing your thighs together as you perform that contraction. As Lori is breathing gently upon her next exhalation, I'm just going to ask her to gently contract the muscles of her pelvic floor and hold it for 1 to 2 seconds. The next part of this exercise is to now add in what I call hollowing. And for this, I'm going to ask Lori to place her fingers on her hips, as she's doing, and then to slide them about a ½ inch to 1 inch to the inside of her thighs, in line with her belly button. Again, as she breathes in, she's going to gently exhale, and on that exhalation, I'm going to ask her to draw her belly button in towards her spine and hold that contraction for 1 to 2 seconds. And release. And just like we did with the previous exercise, we're going to perform some repetitions here, looking at 1 set of 10 repetitions. Now, if she was doing this contraction incorrectly, what would happen is we would actually see a tilting of her pelvis. That would indicate that she is not in fact contracting her core muscles, but she is in fact contracting her abdominal muscles. Lori will demonstrate that to me. As she's initiating the contraction, you notice that there's a bit of a tilt of her pelvis. Okay, the next phase of this exercise is to incorporate those two contractions together. The pelvic squeeze and the hollowing, which I'm going to call a draw or a centering contraction. So at this point, Lori's going to exhale gently, at which point she's now going to squeeze the muscles of the pelvic floor, basically hollow out her belly button towards her spine, hold that contraction for 1 to 2 seconds, and relax. And again, there should be no movement of her pelvis nor of her rib cage. Now, you probably noticed as she was performing these contractions that Lori was holding her breath. Ultimately, we want to get you to engage these muscles independent of breath holding or breathing. So the next stage of this exercise is going to ask Lori to repeat the same contractions, but at this time what we're going to do is have her count slowly backwards from 10 to 1 and continuing her breathing while she engages those contractions. So we're going to try this and go ahead and exhale, initiate the squeezes, and let's count backwards.
10, 9,
and she's
8,
breathing, holding the
7,
contraction, squeezing,
5, 4,
hollowing,
3, 2, 1.
and relax. The objective here is to build this progression from 1 set to 10 repetitions, holding each contraction for 10 seconds. Once we're able to do this, and this should take us a few days before we can achieve this, we're now going to progress the challenge of this exercise by asking Lori to turn herself over onto all fours. So Lori, if you wouldn't mind coming up onto all fours for me, I'll remove this. She's going to position herself with her knees directly under her hips, her hands directly under her shoulders. You notice she's maintaining the natural curvature of her spine, and her neck is aligned with her spine too. In this position, we're going to repeat the same contraction. Lori's going to attempt to initiate a contraction by drawing her stomach up towards her spine as if she's trying to separate her belly button from her pant line. Again, we're making sure there's no movement of the hips, nor is there any movement of the shoulder blades. So after a nice gentle expiration, let's initiate that contraction. She's holding the contraction again. We're going to hold it for 1 to 2 seconds initially, performing 1 set of 10 repetitions. When she can do this, we're going to progress the exercise, incorporating the breathing into it once again. She's going to repeat this, and now what we're going to ask her to do is to hold the contraction while she counts backwards from 10. So go ahead, Lori, let's have